Okay, here's a video response for BigPaw64. I'm looking at the carburetor you're showing. I could see this is the primary, these are the secondaries. It got blurry when I froze it, but I could see the slot you're talking about, which is a transfer slot, and I could see the idle port. Very few of these carburetors have an idle circuit on the secondaries. So if you look in this direction, I think all you have is a slot and you don't have that hole drilled in there. And the way you could tell is if you look on the side of the metering block, you have a little screw for your idle adjustment. These will be just blank indentations in the back. Now, the screw that you're talking about over here actually is a preset screw from the factory. It can be tuned, it can be used. I could see from the picture right here that those plates are open too far. You do not want that transfer slot exposed. On a normal engine like you have in your car that's not nastily radical, okay, where you're having massive idle problems trying to keep the thing running, you want these plates pretty much closed. You don't want them jammed that they're stuck, but you want them closed and you want that transfer slot covered. You don't want to be able to see it, and you do all your idle adjustments from your primaries, because that's the only place you have an idle circuit. When these things start to open up and you hit the transfer slot, that's a different situation. If you have a car that the cam is so radical that you can't get this thing to idle when you put it in gear, what people do is they pop the carburetor and they'll move that screw slightly just to get a little airflow through here. And the reason they do it is for the amount of airflow that's required to keep the car running, they have to open up the primaries so far that it's past the idle ports, so they're no longer used. You gotta remember, the idle ports and the transfer ports on the back side are the same thing. And you're into the transfer slots, so the screws on the side no longer work. So to get those blades back into where they could be adjusted, they crack these open and allow some air to come in here. And then they richen it through here. Okay? So most people never touch these plates. Another trick is drilling minute holes in the primaries. That acts the same as opening up your secondaries, but once you do that, you're done. Okay? When I ran a single carburetor on my wagon, I had these secondaries tuned because I could not keep the airflow correct and get the mixture. So I actually altered the screw. Okay? Now that I run two carburetors on the car, okay, I'm using 4 primaries. So these are actually closed. Okay, they're supposed to be closed to the point where they just about touch. You shouldn't have any air really flowing through them. The air that comes through is minute. Okay, that's why they call them secondaries. They're not being used. And like I said, going by this video right here, you have your screw all the way off because you have too much air coming through here. Okay, you gotta remember, these things are only open a hair to keep your car idling. So to me, it looks like your primaries are open too far. Okay, I looked through books to see if I could actually find something for you to go by, and there's really nothing. I was going by my Holly book, which is a little older now, and they don't really give you a preset adjustment for that. But basically what you got to do is you got to loosen up on that screw on the side to that plate's just about touching. You don't want it to the point where it sticks in the bore, but you want to cover up those transfer slots. Okay? And then you do all your concentration through your front. And once you do that, the car won't even idle because these plates are going to be way too far closed. So you want your idle ports open. Okay? Your transfer slots closed. Transfer slots closed, and these things just about sealed. When you flip the carburetor over, this isn't the carburetor you have, but you got to look down into like over here and over here. You'll see it on your metering block and sometimes in the air horn. You'll see the little idle jets. When you do get the car running again, spray some carb cleaner down there, because when those idle jets fill up with dirt and debris, you'll have idle problems. So just another thing to look at. So I think if you do that, you'll be on the road. That's why when you back it off, I'm looking for a picture. That's why when you back it off, you're not really getting anywhere. You're never going to get anywhere because you're already pretty much closed them off. Very hard picture to see, but you can see the guy holding the drill bit in the hole through the throttle plate. That's what people do when you don't have that screw adjustment in the back, to allow more air in there so you can keep these plates closed enough so you can get fuel from the idle port. So in here they show the screw that you're adjusting, but they never tell me what the minimal spec is to get the plates back. Here's what I'm talking about. There's the idle port, there's the transfer slot, and if you look, you can see the crust line is just above the transfer slot, because right now if the guy's trying to run the car like this, he has no idle mixture adjustment at all, because he's drawing the air out of the transfer slot. So you have to get those closed, and I don't know if that's going to help you. Maybe it will, but that's where I would start. And if you really want my honest opinion, I'd get rid of the Holly on the street and I'd just go with like a Carter or an Edelbrock. Much more reliable, much more dependable, much more street worthy. I run both, and it's definitely the way to go. You just get order yourself a nice Edelbrock with an electric choke, put it on the car, and the car will start and run like it's fuel injected. So, but try that and put it back on the car.